First Contact. Lieutenant James Harrison stood at the viewport of Deep Space Station Omega, watching the iridescent nebula that marked the border between human and Celestian space. After 8 years in the Terran Space Force, he thought he'd seen everything the cosmos had to offer. He was wrong. The station's massive crystalline spires, a fusion of human and alien architecture, still took his breath away after 3 weeks aboard. He adjusted his midnight blue uniform, the silver insignia catching the light from distant stars. His new posting as diplomatic security liaison had seemed like a straightforward assignment, until he met her. "Admiring the view, Lieutenant?" The melodic voice behind him carried subtle harmonics that identified its owner as Celestian. James turned to find Lyra Novak watching him, her opalescent skin shifting colors like the aurora borealis. Her silver-white hair floated weightlessly despite the station's artificial gravity, a characteristic of her species that humans found endlessly fascinating. "Ambassador Novak," he acknowledged with a slight bow, the proper greeting for a Celestian diplomat. "I was just contemplating the boundaries between our peoples." Her luminescent eyes sparkled with interest. "Boundaries can be bridges, Lieutenant, when viewed from the right perspective." She moved to stand beside him, and James noticed the subtle fragrance that accompanied her presence, like starlight given scent, if such a thing were possible. "I've been meaning to thank you for your assistance during last week's security briefing," he said, keeping his tone professional despite his growing awareness of her proximity. "Your insights into Celestian customs helped prevent several potential diplomatic incidents." "We Celestians believe in sharing knowledge freely," Lyra replied, her skin rippling with patterns that James had learned indicated pleasure. "Though I must admit, humans continue to surprise us with their adaptability." James was about to respond when his comm unit chimed. "Lieutenant Harrison, report to operations immediately." Commander Reeves's voice carried an edge of urgency that put James on alert. "Duty calls," he said apologetically to Lyra. Her expression shifted to one of understanding, though he noticed her skin tone had darkened slightly, a sign of disappointment among her people. "Until our paths cross again, Lieutenant." In operations, James found controlled chaos. Holographic displays showed a small vessel approaching the station, its energy signature unlike anything in their database. "Unknown ship dropped out of hyperspace 10 minutes ago," Commander Reeves explained without preamble. "They're not responding to hails, and their approach vector suggests they're headed straight for the Celestian diplomatic sector." James felt his pulse quicken. "Have you informed Ambassador Novak?" "That's why you're here, Lieutenant. As our Celestian liaison, you need to coordinate with her. Their ships use different sensors than ours, they might be able to detect something we're missing." James nodded and opened a secure channel to Lyra's office. Her holographic form appeared instantly, her usual ethereal grace tempered by obvious concern. "I've reviewed the sensor data," she said before he could speak. "The energy signature, it's familiar, but wrong somehow. Like a Celestian song sung in a discordant key. Could it be a malfunctioning Celestian vessel?" "No," she replied firmly. "But it might be trying to mimic one. Lieutenant, I need to show you something in the Celestian archive." In person. The Celestian sector of the station was markedly different from the human sections. The walls seemed alive, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that responded to the emotions of those nearby. James followed Lyra through corridors that sang softly beneath their feet. In her private archive, Lyra activated a crystalline console. 3 centuries ago, before humans reached the stars, we encountered another species that could manipulate energy fields similar to ours. The Void Dancers, we called them. They were aggressive. James watched as historical recordings played out before them, showing sleek ships that seemed to bend light around them. What happened to them? They disappeared as suddenly as they appeared. But before they did. She hesitated, her skin darkening with distress. They attempted to infiltrate our worlds by mimicking our vessels. The energy signature you detected matches their technology. A species that's been dormant for 300 years just happens to show up now, when humans and Celestians are attempting their first joint deep space station. James frowned. That can't be coincidence. My thoughts exactly. Lyra's hair writhed with agitation. Lieutenant James. If these are indeed the Void Dancers returning, both our peoples are in danger. They seek to divide and conquer, to turn allies against each other through fear and suspicion. James studied the historical data, his security training kicking in. We need to warn command, but carefully. If word of this leaks to the general population. Panic, Lyra finished. And possibly a breakdown of human-Celestian relations. Everything we've worked for could be destroyed. Their eyes met, and James felt something shift between them, a mutual understanding that went beyond their professional roles. They were no longer just a human security officer and a Celestian diplomat, they were two people facing a threat to everything they believed in. We'll need to work closely together, James said, aware of how their proximity was affecting him. Celestians naturally emitted an energy field that humans found either soothing or intensely stimulating, depending on the individual. With Lyra, he definitely experienced the latter. Yes, she agreed, her skin shimming with complex patterns he couldn't quite interpret. Though it might be challenging. You should know, Lieutenant, that my species enters a period of heightened energy resonance every few cycles. That time is approaching. Is that dangerous for humans? Not dangerous, but intense. Our emotional and energy fields become more powerful, more difficult to control. It can affect those around us, especially those we're drawn to. The implications of her words hung in the air between them. James cleared his throat. We'll deal with that when the time comes. Right now, we need to focus on the immediate threat. Lyra nodded, though her skin continued to shimmer with unspoken emotions. I'll speak with the Celestian Council. We'll need their support to implement any defensive measures without causing widespread alarm. And I'll discreetly alert our security teams. We should increase patrols, but make it look routine. As they worked through the night, developing contingency plans and analyzing historical data, James couldn't help but notice how Lyra's energy field seemed to synchronize with his own biorhythms. It was subtle but unmistakable, a harmony he'd never experienced with another being. By station morning, they had a preliminary plan in place. As they prepared to present their findings to their respective commanders, Lyra touched James's arm lightly. The contact sent a cascade of sensations through him. Whatever comes next, Lieutenant, I'm glad you're here. Sometimes the greatest bridges are built in times of crisis. James looked down at her hand on his arm, noticing how her skin patterns seemed to reach out toward him. Together then? Her smile was like starlight. Together. Breaking protocol. Security Chief Rowan Chen prowled the corridors of Deep Space Station Omega like a caged tiger. The latest security reports showed increasing anomalies in the station's quantum barrier field, and the timing couldn't have been worse. With the Asterian delegation due to arrive within hours, any breach in station defenses could spark an interstellar incident. Chief Chen. His comm badge chirped. Ambassador Talia's shuttle is approaching ahead of schedule. Rowan suppressed a sigh. The Asterians were known for their precise timing, arriving early was uncharacteristic. Direct them to Docking Bay 7. I'll handle the security protocols personally. The Asterian shuttle gleamed like liquid mercury as it glided into the docking bay. Rowan watched through reinforced windows as the atmospheric stabilizers engaged, his trained eye noting every detail of the vessel's unusual design. The Asterians were a species of perfect symmetry, and their technology reflected this obsession. The airlock cycled, and Ambassador Talia emerged. Even prepared, Rowan felt his breath catch. The Asterian stood nearly 7 feet tall, her crystalline skin refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. Unlike other members of her species, who typically maintained rigid geometric forms, Talia's appearance seemed almost fluid, her crystals flowing like water frozen in mid-motion. "Ambassador," Rowan bowed slightly. "Welcome to Omega Station. We weren't expecting you for another 3 hours." Talia's faceted eyes studied him with unsettling intensity. "Circumstances required an accelerated arrival, Chief Chen. We have matters to discuss. In private. Protocol dictated that all diplomatic meetings be properly scheduled and documented." But something in Talia's tone, a hint of urgency that seemed at odds with typical Asterian composure, made Rowan hesitate. "My office is secure," he offered, making a split-second decision. "This way, Ambassador." As they walked, Rowan noticed subtle changes in Talia's crystalline structure, microscopic fractal patterns that seemed to ripple with anxiety. He'd studied Asterian biology extensively as part of his security training, but he'd never seen anything quite like this. In his office, Talia didn't take the offered seat. Instead, she moved to the window, her crystalline form catching starlight. "Your station's quantum barrier field is failing." Rowan stiffened. "That information was classified." Ambassador Dash. "We know because we've seen it before," she continued, turning to face him. "On our outposts along the Void Ridge. The pattern is identical, subtle fluctuations in the quantum field, followed by complete barrier failure. And then. They came. Beings of pure energy, capable of passing through solid matter. They took control of our people, possessed them. Turned them against each other." Her voice carried harmonics of distress that made the glass in the office vibrate sympathetically. Rowan accessed his secure terminal, pulling up the latest sensor data. "When did this happen?" 3 standard cycles ago. We've kept it classified to prevent panic. But when we detected the same energy signature approaching Omega Station." She moved closer, her crystalline form shifting in ways that seemed almost organic. "Your barrier technology is based on ours. If they could breach our defenses dash. They can breach ours," Rowan finished grimly. "But why tell me? This should go through proper diplomatic channels." Talia's crystal structure pulsed with what might have been frustration. "Because, Chief Chen, I've studied your record. You're someone who acts when action is needed, regardless of protocol. And we don't have time for diplomatic channels." She was right, of course. Rowan had built his career on following his instincts, even when they contradicted regulations. It had earned him both commendations and reprimands. "How long do we have?" "Hours, maybe less." "There's something else." Talia hesitated, her crystals clouding slightly. "During an Asterian's crystal shift cycle, we become more sensitive to energy patterns. I'm in that cycle now. I can sense them, Chief Chen. They're already here." Rowan felt his pulse quicken. "Where?" "Scattered throughout the station. Dormant for now, but gathering strength. They're drawn to power sources, and to beings with heightened energy sensitivity. Like Asterians during crystal shift." Rowan studied her with new understanding. "That's why you came early. You're not just warning us, you're a target." Talia's form shimmered with what might have been approval. "As I said, I studied your record thoroughly. You understand implications quickly. We need to evacuate the station. That would cause panic, and alert our enemies that we know of their presence. No, we need something more subtle." She moved closer, her crystalline surface reflecting his image back at him. "During crystal shift, my people can create resonance fields that disrupt energy patterns. With proper calibration, we might be able to force these entities to reveal themselves. But using you as bait," Rowan protested. "The risk dash is necessary." Her faceted eyes held his. "But I'll need your help. The process is intimate. It requires physical contact to establish the initial resonance pattern." Rowan felt heat rise to his face. Physical contact with Asterians during crystal shift was strictly regulated. Their heightened energy state could create unexpected psychic bonds. Ambassador, the regulations dash. Will get us all killed if we follow them now. She extended one crystalline hand, its surface shifting like liquid glass. Trust goes both ways, Chief Chen. He hesitated only a moment before taking her hand. The contact was electric, sending shivers of energy through his nervous system. Talia's crystalline form began to glow from within, patterns of light dancing across her surface. Focus on my energy signature, she instructed, her voice taking on harmonic overtones that seemed to resonate with his very cells. Let it guide you. The sensation was unlike anything Rowan had experienced, as if his consciousness was expanding beyond his physical form, becoming aware of energy patterns throughout the station. Through Talia's enhanced senses, he could detect disturbances in the quantum field, places where reality seemed to twist in unnatural ways. There, Talia whispered, her crystalline form pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. Do you feel them? He did. Dark spots in the energy field, like holes in the fabric of space itself. They were everywhere, waiting, gathering strength. But he could also feel something else, the pure, crystalline energy of Talia's being, reaching out to him, offering strength and connection. What we're doing, he managed, his voice rough with the effort of maintaining focus, this isn't just about detecting them, is it? No, she admitted. During crystal shift, my people can form bonds, permanent connections that amplify our abilities. I didn't plan this, but I feel, you're compatible. More than compatible. The implications were staggering. Human-Asterian bonds were theoretical at best, considered impossible by most scientists. Yet here they were, their energies intertwining in ways that defied explanation. If we survive this, Rowan said, feeling the connection between them strengthen with each passing moment, there will be questions. Investigations. Talia's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been amusement. Then let's make sure we survive to answer them. Together, they began mapping the energy disturbances, marking each location where the entities lurked. Their shared consciousness made communication instantaneous, perfect. Through their bond, Rowan could sense Talia's brilliant strategic mind, her deep well of courage, her growing affection for him. As station night approached, they had identified 17 distinct entities. But they'd also discovered something neither had expected, a connection that transcended species, protocol, and reason itself. A bond forged in crisis that would change both their lives forever. Ready? Talia asked as they prepared to implement their plan. Rowan squeezed her crystalline hand, marveling at how natural it felt now. Together. Her response echoed in his mind through their newfound bond, always. Bridging worlds. Medical Officer Nina Patel stared at the readings on her quantum scanner with a mixture of disbelief and excitement. The data streaming across her holographic display defied everything she thought she knew about xenobiology. She pushed a stray lock of dark hair behind her ear and adjusted her lab coat, a nervous habit she developed during her years at the Interstellar Medical Academy. Fascinating, isn't it? The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, a chorus of harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. Representative Orion materialized gradually beside her, there formed a swirling constellation of light points arranged in a vaguely humanoid shape. The cellular reconstruction rate is unprecedented, Nina replied, trying to maintain her professional composure despite her racing heart. After 3 months of working with the quantum being, she still hadn't quite gotten used to their ability to appear and disappear at will. Your species' ability to manipulate matter at the subatomic level is not so different from your own body's natural processes, Orion interrupted, their form shifting closer to examine the display. Merely, accelerated. The points of light that composed their body pulsed in a pattern that Nina had learned to recognize as amusement. The research laboratory aboard Deep Space Station Omega had been specially modified to accommodate quantum being physiology, with quantum stabilization fields and zero-point energy regulators. Even so, Orion's presence made the sensitive equipment fluctuate wildly. Still, Nina persisted, pulling up another set of readings. The implications for regenerative medicine are staggering. If we could understand how your species manipulates quantum states to repair cellular damage. You assume our methods would be compatible with conventional matter-based life forms. Orion's form rippled, thousands of light points rearranging themselves. Though perhaps, with the right bridge between our species. Nina looked up sharply. There was something in Orion's tone, a suggestion of meaning beyond the obvious. What kind of bridge? Instead of answering directly, Orion extended what might have been an arm, their light point stretching out to form a tendril of pure energy. Your species fascinates us, Dr. Patel. You exist in such solid, limited forms, yet your consciousness, it resonates on frequencies we didn't think possible for matter-based beings. Nina watched, mesmerized, as the points of light swirled closer. She'd read all the safety protocols about interaction with quantum beings, but nothing had prepared her for the reality of working with Orion. Their presence affected her in ways she couldn't quite explain, as if some part of her consciousness recognized something familiar in their otherworldly form. The quantum entanglement readings, she said suddenly, pulling up yet another dataset. They're not just showing cellular reconstruction. There's a pattern here, something. She trailed off as the implications hit her. Orion, are you attempting to create a quantum link with me? The being's form pulsed with what might have been approval. You see more than most, Nina Patel. Yes, I have been, experimenting. Each time we work together, I adjust my quantum frequency slightly, bringing it closer to your neural patterns. That's incredibly dangerous. Nina exclaimed, though she couldn't quite muster the proper level of outrage. The protocols explicitly forbid any attempt at quantum neural linkage. The risk of consciousness destabilization is significantly reduced when there is natural compatibility, Orion finished. Their form contracted slightly, becoming more defined, more human. Which we have discovered exists between us. Nina's scientific training warred with the inexplicable rightness she felt at Orion's words. Even if that's true, the ethical implications are less concerning than the approaching threat, Orion said gravely. Their form darkened, the bright points of light dimming to a deep indigo. We have detected disturbances in the quantum fields surrounding the station. Something is coming, Dr. Patel. Something that exists in the space between conventional matter and quantum states. Nina felt a chill run down her spine. The anomalies in the medical sensors. I thought they were just equipment malfunctions. They are signs. This threat can only be fought by beings who can bridge both states of existence. A human consciousness linked with a quantum being would be uniquely suited to the task. You're asking me to be your guinea pig, Nina said, but without real accusation. She'd spent enough time with Orion to recognize when they were being deliberately roundabout. To attempt something that's never been done before. I am asking you to trust what you already know to be true. Orion's form shifted again, creating a mirror image of Nina composed entirely of points of light. You have felt it since our first meeting, the resonance between us. It is not accident or coincidence that brought you to this station, to this research, to me. Nina looked at her quantum scanner readings again, seeing them with new understanding. The patterns she'd been documenting weren't just about cellular reconstruction, they were a record of gradually increasing quantum neural synchronization between herself and Orion. If we do this, she said slowly, we do it my way. With proper documentation and safety protocols. This could revolutionize our understanding of consciousness itself. Orion's form brightened. Your scientific mind is one of your most attractive qualities, Dr. Patel. Though perhaps not the most compelling one. Nina felt herself blush, still amazed that a being of pure energy could flirt so effectively. We'll need to design new protocols, run simulations. Time grows short, Orion interrupted, their tone urgent. The threat I spoke of, it approaches faster than anticipated. We must achieve stable quantum neural linkage within 48 hours. 48 hours. Nina's scientific excitement gave way to practical concern. That's not nearly enough time to properly. She was interrupted by a sudden fluctuation in the lab's quantum stabilization field. All around them, equipment readings spiked erratically. "They're testing the barriers," Orion said, their form condensing with tension. "Nina, we must decide now." Looking at the being of light before her, Nina knew she'd already made her decision. Perhaps she'd made it the first time she'd seen Orion materialize in her lab, bringing with them possibilities she'd never dared to imagine. "Show me," she said softly. "Show me how to bridge our worlds." Orion's form expanded, surrounding her in a galaxy of light points. As their consciousness began to merge, Nina felt herself becoming aware of new dimensions of existence, layers of reality she'd never known existed. Through their growing connection, she could sense Orion's essence, brilliant, complex, and surprisingly tender in its regard for her. "Together then," she whispered, feeling herself transform into something neither fully human nor purely quantum. Orion's response resonated through every atom of her being. "Together, we become something entirely new." Diplomatic dance. Cultural Liaison Officer Marcus Rodriguez never imagined that his expertise in xenoanthropology would lead him to dance lessons with a being made of starlight. Yet here he was in the station's zero-gravity chamber, watching stellar emissary Selene demonstrate the intricate movements of the astral waltz, a crucial component of her species' diplomatic protocols. "The dance is more than movement," Selene explained, her form rippling with waves of golden light. Unlike the solid-bodied species on the station, the stellar beings existed as coherent energy fields, their emotions expressed through shifts in color and intensity. "It is a sharing of essence, a way to truly know another's heart." Marcus floated in the zero-gravity environment, his dark eyes fixed on Selene's ethereal form. "And you're sure a human can learn this? The quantum resonance patterns alone are complex but not impossible," she finished, extending a tendril of light toward him. "Your species has an extraordinary capacity for adaptation. Besides," her form flickered with what he'd learned to recognize as amusement, "you've already mastered the preliminary harmonics." It was true. Over the past 3 months, Marcus had found himself increasingly attuned to the subtle energy fields that the stellar beings used for communication. What had started as a diplomatic assignment, helping coordinate the upcoming Convergence Festival, had evolved into something far more personal. "The festival opens in less than 2 days," Marcus reminded her, taking her offered tendril of light. The contact sent familiar shivers of energy through his nervous system. "If we can't demonstrate proper stellar-human synchronization, then the conservative factions on both sides will use it as evidence that our species aren't ready for deeper alliance," Selene completed his thought. Her form dimmed slightly with concern. "But there's more at stake than politics, Marcus. You felt it, haven't you? The disturbances in the background radiation?" Marcus nodded grimly. As his sensitivity to stellar energy fields had grown, he'd become aware of subtle wrongness in the station's quantum substrate. Like static in the void. "The other liaison officers think it's just equipment malfunction, but you know better." Selene's form expanded, surrounding him in a cocoon of warm light. "The astral waltz isn't just tradition, it's a defense mechanism. When our ancestors faced the void hunters, they used the dance to create harmony fields that the hunters couldn't penetrate." "Void hunters?" Marcus felt his pulse quicken. "I thought they were just legends." "All legends have their roots in truth." Selene's light pulsed with ancient memory. "They are beings of anti-energy, consuming light and life itself. My people thought them long vanquished, but the signs—" She hesitated. "They're returning, Marcus. And this station, this alliance between our peoples, will be their first target." Marcus processed this information with the analytical mind that had made him one of Earth's top xenoanthropologists. "That's why you've been pushing so hard for me to learn the dance. It's not just about the festival." "No," Selene admitted. The astral waltz creates a quantum resonance field between partners. With enough pairs dancing in harmony. Her form brightened hopefully. We could theoretically create a barrier that would protect the entire station. But it would require multiple human stellar pairs achieving perfect synchronization, Marcus realized. Something that's never been done before. Until now. Celine's form shifted closer, her light interweaving with his bioelectric field in a way that felt startlingly intimate. You feel it, don't you? The way our energies align. It's not supposed to be possible, but Marcus did feel it. From their first meeting, he'd been aware of an inexplicable connection with Celine. While other humans reported feeling disoriented or overwhelmed in the presence of stellar beings, he found her energy soothing, natural, as if some part of him had always been waiting to resonate at her frequency. Show me again, he said softly. The first movement sequence. Celine's form brightened with joy. She began to move through the intricate patterns of the dance, her light creating trails of golden energy in the zero-gravity chamber. Marcus followed, letting his body respond to her energy field rather than trying to memorize specific steps. To his surprise, he found himself anticipating her movements, their energies synchronizing with increasing ease. The sensation was extraordinary, as if they were creating their own private universe of light and motion. Marcus, Celine whispered, her voice carrying harmonics of wonder. Look. He opened his eyes, when had he closed them, to see their combined energy field creating complex geometric patterns in the air around them. The patterns seemed to pulse with their shared heartbeat, because somehow, impossibly, he could feel Celine's energy pulse matching his own. Is this normal? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Nothing about this is normal, she replied, her light rippling with emotion. The level of synchronization we're achieving, it shouldn't be possible without years of training. Their dance continued, each movement bringing them closer to perfect harmony. Through their growing connection, Marcus became aware of Celine's thoughts, her memories, her hopes for what their peoples could achieve together. He saw glimpses of her world, vast nebulae where stellar beings danced among newborn stars, their light adding to the cosmic chorus. There's something else, he said, sensing her holding back. Something you haven't told me about the dance. Celine's form flickered with what might have been embarrassment. Among my people, the astral waltz is also a bonding ritual. Pairs who achieve true synchronization often form permanent quantum links. You mean like marriage? More than marriage. A joining of essence that transcends physical form. Her light dimmed anxiously. I should have told you sooner, but I feared. Marcus pulled her closer, letting their energy fields merge more completely. That I might refuse? Celine, I've been falling in love with you since the first day you tried to teach me proper energy modulation. Her form exploded with joy, filling the chamber with prismatic light. Through their connection, he felt her love for him, pure, brilliant, and utterly unconditional. We'll face opposition, she warned, even as their dance continued to build the harmony field around them. Conservatives on both sides will say it's unnatural. Let them, Marcus replied, feeling braver and more certain than he ever had. We'll show them what's possible when two species dare to dance together. As if in response to his words, their combined energy field expanded, touching the chamber walls with tendrils of golden light. Through their growing bond, Marcus sensed other resonances throughout the station, other pairs discovering their own harmonies, preparing to face the darkness that approached. Together then? Celine asked, her light becoming one with his essence. Together, Marcus agreed, surrendering himself to their dance. All the way across the stars. New horizons. Station Commander Patricia Walsh stood at her command post, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a tight bun, watching as reality itself seemed to unravel around Deep Space Station Omega. The massive viewscreen showed distortions in the fabric of space, dark tears appearing in the starfield like wounds in the cosmos. The void breaches are expanding exponentially, reported first speaker Cashin, his translucent form shimmering with urgency. As a member of the ethereal collective, Cashin existed in a state between matter and energy, his body a swirling mix of iridescent particles that caught the emergency lighting. "Status report," Patricia commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. Years of military command had taught her to maintain composure, even when facing unprecedented threats. "Lieutenant Harrison and Ambassador Novak have successfully reinforced the quantum shields in the diplomatic sector," Cashin reported, floating closer to her station. "Security Chief Chen and Ambassador Talia's resonance field is holding in the lower decks. Dr. Patel and Representative Orion have established quantum neural links throughout the medical bay, and—" He paused, his form rippling with what might have been amazement. "Cultural liaison Rodriguez and emissary Celine have somehow managed to teach the astral waltz to 20 human stellar pairs in less than 48 hours. Patricia allowed herself a small smile. "It seems our species are more compatible than anyone imagined." "Perhaps that's what they feared," Cashin mused, his particles swirling thoughtfully. "These void hunters, they attack not just matter and energy, but the connections between them. Between us." Patricia turned to face him fully, noting how his form seemed to reach toward her unconsciously whenever they were close. Their own connection, developed over months of joint command, remained unspoken but undeniable. "The station's defensive grid is operating at maximum capacity," she said, checking the readings on her neural interface. "But these entities, they're like nothing we've encountered before." "Not nothing," Cashin corrected gently. His form shifted, creating a holographic display of ancient records. "My people encountered them once, long ago, in the early days of our transcendence from matter to energy. They are drawn to moments of great change, to points where different forms of existence begin to merge. Like what's happening on this station," Patricia realized. "These couples, these connections forming between our species, they're not just breaking biological barriers. They're creating something new," Cashin finished. "A bridge between states of being. The void hunters seek to prevent such evolution. They feed on separation, on isolation." A massive tremor shook the station, causing the lights to flicker. Patricia grabbed her console for support, while Cashin's form automatically extended to steady her. "Commander." Lieutenant Harrison's voice came through the comm, "The diplomatic sector shields are failing. Ambassador Novak is attempting to reinforce them with Celestian energy, but the medical bay is under attack as well," Dr. Patel's voice cut in. "Orion and I are maintaining the quantum neural network, but we're detecting multiple breach attempts. The astral waltz barriers are holding," Rodriguez reported next, his voice strained but determined. "But Celine says we need more power to expand them station-wide." Patricia exchanged looks with Cashin, seeing her own realization mirrored in his swirling form. "They're not random attacks," she said. "They're testing our defenses, looking for weaknesses in our connections. Then we must show them there are none." Cashin's form began to glow more intensely. "Commander, Patricia, what we discussed last month, about the theoretical possibility of an ethereal human merge. You said it was too dangerous," Patricia reminded him, though her heart rate increased at the memory of that conversation. "That the energy required could overwhelm a human consciousness. These are no longer theoretical times." His form moved closer, surrounding her in a gentle aurora of light. "Our connection, you've felt it growing stronger. Your consciousness already reaches for mine, just as mine reaches for yours." Another tremor rocked the station, more violent than the last. Warning klaxons blared as multiple systems reported critical failures. "Commander," Chief Chen's voice crackled through the comm, "Ambassador Talia and I can't hold them much longer. Whatever you're planning, do it quickly," Naira's voice joined in. "The void breaches are approaching critical mass." Patricia looked at the being of light and energy before her, her colleague, her friend, and perhaps something more. "If we do this, there's no going back, is there?" "No," Cashin admitted. "But perhaps that's what evolution is about, moving forward into the unknown, together." She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of command, of history, of possibility. How do we begin? We already have. Cassion's form expanded, his particles beginning to intermingle with her bioelectric field. Feel it, Patricia. The resonance between us. Let go of the boundaries between matter and energy, between solid and ethereal. Patricia closed her eyes, surrendering to the sensation of Cassion's essence merging with hers. The experience defied description, like being unmade and remade in the same moment, like touching the heart of a star and finding it felt like home. Through their merging consciousness, she became aware of every connection on the station, Harrison and Novak's determined defense, Chen and Talia's crystalline harmony, Patel and Orion's quantum dance, Rodriguez and Celine's stellar waltz. Each pair represented a different way of bridging the gap between species, between states of being. Together, she whispered, her voice carrying new harmonics as her form began to shift between solid and ethereal. Together, Cassion's consciousness echoed through her own. Their combined energy exploded outward, connecting with every other bonded pair on the station. The resulting resonance field expanded like a wave of pure possibility, pushing back the void breaches, healing the tears in space itself. Through their shared awareness, Patricia felt the Void Hunters recoil from the light of so many connections, so much evolution, so much love transcending the boundaries of form and species. The dark entities retreated, their appetite for isolation overwhelmed by the station's unified brilliance. As the crisis passed and their consciousness began to separate, Patricia found herself forever changed. She was neither fully human nor completely ethereal, but something gloriously in between. Status report, she commanded, her voice still carrying ethereal harmonics. All sectors reporting successful repulsion of void entities, Harrison reported. Quantum barriers restabilizing, Chen added. Neural network secure, Patel confirmed. Astral waltz barriers holding strong, Rodriguez completed. Patricia turned to Cassion, whose form now seemed to echo her own hybrid state. It seems, first speaker, that we've started something rather unprecedented here. Indeed, Commander. His form rippled with joy and pride. Though perhaps it's exactly what both our peoples needed, a reminder that the greatest strengths come not from maintaining our separate identities, but from daring to merge them. As they looked out at the now peaceful starfield, Patricia reflected that Deep Space Station Omega had become more than just a diplomatic outpost. It was an incubator for the next step in cosmic evolution, a place where love proved stronger than the void itself. Together then, she asked, feeling their essences begin to harmonize again. Always, Cassion replied, his light becoming one with hers. Across all states of being.